Good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? I hope everybody's doing good. I hope I have resolved any delay issues with my voice, audio matching my video. If not, then I apologize. I'm perhaps a little out of my league. I don't know. Good morning, Terry. It's good to have you. I'm glad to see you this morning. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I got up really early this morning. I got really bored really fast. I took a walk around the block. Got some fresh air. Stacia, good morning to you. I hope everybody's doing well. Start thinking already about topics you want to do. I've got one on the board. Got a few announcements, little things. And yeah, it's an open book this morning and whatever you guys want to do. Terry, I popped in to hear what you guys' group was doing this morning on your call. It was brief, just for a minute or two, and I jumped back out of there. I'll put on the board what we have so far on the docket today. Let's see what we got. Yeah, so current topic today, the first one is going to be Northbound Believers. Original thing. It actually was from 2 weeks ago. She wasn't on the call last week, so I decided to hold this one till the end, and then we got we got a lot of topics, so I didn't make it. But today I can do this one first. Don't believe it'll be very long, but I have some information on it. B. Nichols, good to have you this morning. Good to have you. Terry Barnes, you're saying too much drama, waiting on the other shoe to drop. There's a lot of shoes, and some have dropped, some have not. There's so many shoes. I'm waiting on a lot of shoes to drop. How about you? There's a lot of drama, that's for sure. But this topic is going to be pretty interesting. David and Goliath, the possibility that they were cousins. And Northbound mentioned the book of Orpah, which I have a comment or two on that. But I did find information that's going to go over all of this. David and Goliath, and particularly Orpah from the book of Ruth and Goliath being related. Very interesting stuff there. I can just go on into some announcements since not much busyness there in the chat, guys, so that's fine. I am feeling pretty calm today. Pretty calm. Katie Turner, good morning from you and your mother. It's good to have you. Glad you're both here. I'm glad you woke up this morning. So this week, some things I've been studying. Interestingly enough, circumcision is a topic that came up this week as I studied, and it's kind of a gross topic, but it's interesting. There's a property or two of the practice of circumcision as originally intended that are really interesting. And really speak to what I've taught a lot on this channel and really confirm some things. So I do have a video incoming on circumcision, particularly what it means. It's all about the meaning of it. And it's probably not what you've been told or what you may have thought. And so I'm excited to do that one. It's probably gonna be a short video, but it's really packs a punch. So then I did some more searching and studying this week on the Azazel goat. And this is in the practice of Yom Kippur. Now, I don't know if you guys will know this. Some of you may have watched my videos for a while, but some maybe not. So in regards to Yom Kippur and the Azazel goat, I had a video a long time ago. I did it in 2020, in April of 2020, called The Scapegoat. What is the scapegoat and Yom Kippur? Now, I actually took this video down. I took this video down because when I continued to study, I saw different things that made me question what I had put out in this video. And so for a while, I had made it private. And as you can see, it's private right now. And so it's not available on the channel. However, what's interesting is I believe that I have now found more information that confirms my original ideas on the scapegoat and how it relates to Azazel, who is Satan. And so I am doing a little more research on this to try to vet those ideas again. And then I probably will either come around to making a new video on the Yom Kippur and the Azazel goat, or I could just put that one back online, but I don't know. I feel like that would almost be counterintuitive to people actually getting the information. I think I want to resurrect it somehow by redoing the video. So just be aware that that will be probably soon-ish. And just for your own study, if you're interested in Yom Kippur and the Azazel goat, you should consider the idea that Azazel and the Azazel goat represents Satan and his portion of the people. Okay, and I'll just leave that on the table for you to do your own study if you're interested in it. But I do believe that that is the correct, ancient, very ancient interpretation of the meaning of the Azazel goat in Yom Kippur. I see a few more have joined. Northbound, I'm glad you joined. We're going to do your topic this morning. So of Orpah and Goliath and all of that relationship. Karen Morgan, it's good morning to you. Lindsay, it's good to have you. Earth to Cindy, good morning. Got a good group today, guys. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Squiffy Bear, as always, good morning to you. You're so welcome. And hope you're doing well. All right. Good deal. Good deal. All right. So in addition to that, I just wanted to mention a couple movies that I saw this week that I watched for the intent of researching them and understanding some things better. If you've never seen the 1927 silent film Metropolis by Fritz Lang, I think that it's, I was blown away by this movie. I had heard about it since a long time ago. Over 20-something years ago, I'd heard about this movie, how good it was, and all of this. And I finally forced myself to watch the 2.5-hour movie yesterday. And this movie is incredible. So it has a very interesting kind of dystopian view of the future. And it was, of course, in 1927, what Fritz Lang, who actually is a German from the Weimar Republic, felt about the future if the industrialization of the world was not held in check, and how it would essentially imprison the populace to a life of servitude. Very interesting. It has references to Moloch. It has references to the apocalypse. It has references to the Whore of Babylon. Just some really interesting pieces in that film that are very worth watching if you have the time. And it's, you got to get used to the silent film stuff, but very interesting. And then a movie that I was totally blindsided by called Network out of 1976. Is that correct? That feels wrong. It might be 1979, but either way, the movie Network is, man, that's another one that'll blindside you if you're really awake to hear what it's saying. You know, there's so many clues that we've gotten in our society over the years to how bad things were. And that's this movie is one of them. That is called Network from 1976. And it is, it's not for kids. I will say that. It's got cursing. It's got some infidelity, marriage infidelity in it. But the message is essentially loud and clear. And that is that, you know, as a society, we are connected so much to the media, meaning essentially in this movie it's about television, but we're so connected that we don't think straight. We don't act right. We don't live as humans. Instead, we live as something different, and it's really interesting. So anyway, for those of you who like to dig like me and learn about things in our past that may have shed light on where we are now, those are two movies that would do that for you. All right, let me see in the chat if you've got any other topics yet. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Katie Turner, you found a new historian who recorded armies seen in the sky around Jerusalem, and his name is Yosippon. Has anyone heard this account? Interesting, Katie. I'm going to take that down. Whoop. Let's see. Crystal M, good to have you this morning. Good to have you. Thank you for joining. Let's see. Stacia, you say Katie, you say you found on Revelation Revolution website. Interesting. I got it taken down in my notes. I'm going to take a look too. Very cool. C. Jones, welcome this morning. You want to do what is the meaning of Matthew 5:18? Okay, let's put that on there. C. Jones, sure thing. Lindsay, you watched the Barbie movie for research? You say it's Gnostic and awoke. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably bad. Although I terribly get a kick out of Ryan Gosling being Ken. That's he so does not look like Ken. Like there's something going on there. Like, why did you pick that guy? And he always plays these really masculine roles in a lot of movies, and so it's really funny that they picked him for Ken. I'm just saying. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm just saying that's funny. Oh, goodness. Too funny. All right. Any other topics, guys? Make sure you get them on. If nothing else, I wouldn't even be averse to looking up what you're talking about, Katie Turner, the Yosippon, his account of armies being seen in the sky around Jerusalem in 70 AD. I would be interested in that. So actually, I'm going to put it on here as a possibility at the end here. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Okay, guys, it's the last call for topics, because if you put them in now, I may or may not see them. So we'll get going then. Perusia, it's good to have you. Good morning. How are you? Glad to see you. Katie, you say, did Moses have to keep his face covered by a veil all of the time due to his face shining? That's a good question, Katie. I'm going to probably need context for that, Katie. If you have any source for him covering his face because of it shining. Like, I know about his face shining, But I don't know that I have context for him covering his face with a veil because of that. So if you do, I could use that maybe. Laura Masood, it's good to have you this morning. Welcome. And you say the topic of feet, that the feet of iron and clay, meaning from Daniel. Yes. Yeah. Laura. We can do that for sure. Lindsay Ball, you say he covered his face so that Israel couldn't see that the shining was vanishing, and you reference Hebrews. We may have to dig into this one today, ladies. We may have to. That's good. I'll do it. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started then. And I'll try to, let's see, I'll word this thing this way. Word David and Goliath. Cousins. So northbound, this would be your topic. We're going to get right into that this morning. So, not the Las Vegas shooting, which I was doing some consolidation of my materials on that. Yeah, Goliath, right? Let's do Goliath and Orpah. So let's see here if I can pull the information that I had for your topic here, northbound. And it does start in Ruth, okay, because that's where, of course, Orpah is mentioned. In Ruth chapter 1. And verse 3, it says, and Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. She was left and her 2 sons. And they took of them wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah. The name of the other was Ruth. So these women were taken from the land of Moab. They were Moabite women, of course. And it says they dwelled there about 10 years after Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. And so Naomi's husband died. Her 2 sons took these Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. All right. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. So Naomi wants to go back to Judah because of the things changing for the people of Israel that she had heard. And so verse 8, Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, go and return to your mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. So Naomi tells them to go home, and they say, not going to do it. Verse 9, the Lord grant you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. She kissed them. They lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, turn again, daughters. Why would you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb that you may be your husbands, that they may be your husbands, rather? So not only did Elimelech die, but Naomi and, Ruth and Orpah's husbands died. She says, turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I'm too old to have a husband. If I should say, I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight and should also bear sons, would you tarry with them till they were grown? So, Naomi saying that because I can't have children anymore, you have no husbands, just go back to your people and get new husbands or do whatever you want to do. And they said and wept. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back to her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. So Orpah kisses Naomi and takes off, goes back to Moab. And Ruth of course, stays with Naomi and goes with her to Judah, to the Israelite homeland. So that's the story from the scriptures, right? And that's really all we know in the Bible about Orpah. There's not much else. Now, Orpah in Strong's is interesting, just to give more information. Here's the original Hebrew, Orpah, and there's another translation that comes out of the root of the same word, Araphel, and it means a cloud of darkness, gloomy, thick darkness, all of this stuff. And so I just thought that was interesting. As we study further about Orpah, you're going to see why, maybe that's related. It's possible. But as I looked up the etymology of the word Orpah and Araphel, I found the descriptions smog and vampire, which I thought were interesting, if nothing else. Again, I'm not sure if that relates 100%, but you'll see as we go that this gets interesting really quick here. When we hit the Jewish encyclopedia, the rabbis maintained that Orpah and Ruth were actually sisters, even though that's not said in the scriptures. But the rabbis teach that they were the daughters of King Eglon of Moab. And this reference here, Ruth Rabbah 2:9, that's a reference to the Mishnah, if I'm not mistaken, or Midrash, excuse me, I have it right there. Who in turn, according to the same Midrash, was the son of Balak. Ruth's descent from these kings is regarded as a mark of their merit, while no mention is made of Orpah, though. And then the Midrash that we're talking about here, Rabbah 1:9, they took for themselves Moabite wives. The name of one was Orpah, the name of the second was Ruth. They dwelled approximately 10 years. So that's just more information. Okay, now, yeah, I'm trying to skim a little bit so I don't waste your all's time. Yeah, so yeah, daughters of Eglon. Okay, that's just more confirmation of their heritage from the Midrash. They dwelled 10 years. Yes. Okay. In rabbinic literature, Orpah is identified with Herseh, mother of 4 Philistine giants, one of whom was Goliath. Okay, now that's in Wikipedia, so we're going to actually back that up in a second with more information. I'm not going to just take Wikipedia's word for it, but note that name, Herseh, and it's going to be related to Orpah in general. Her other name, meaning Orpah's other name, is Haraphah, and it's a cognate for the word threshing. Like you'd thresh wheat, or you would smash corn after it's harvested. Okay, so just think of that meaning, threshing or smashing or whatever, because that's going to become important. Here's an old engraving from, like the 1500s about Orpah here on the right, leaving while Naomi and Ruth are taking off towards the left. And here's where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. The Babylonian Talmud, Sotat 42b, says that Goliath was a son of Orpah. Okay, so this is where all this discussion of Goliath comes into, and David, because David is of the heritage of Ruth, and then so then Orpah has Goliath according to these other Talmud, Mishnah, Midrash, all these different sources in the Jewish sector. And so I will say this, Northbound, like your comment originally, you mentioned the quote Book of Orpah. I didn't find anything called the Book of Orpah, but I think that maybe somebody referenced the Midrash and called it that, because the Midrash talks about Orpah. There's certain sections and all this stuff, but I didn't find anything, just so you're aware, I didn't find anything called the Book of Orpah, like a writing that's out there or something. All this information is from the Talmud, the Midrash, etc. So Goliath, the son of Orpah, the sister-in-law of Ruth, David's own great-grandmother. So Ruth to Obed, to Jesse, to David is that lineage right there. So Ruth Rabbah, it mentions again from the Midrash, is an interpretation of the book of Ruth. And considering Orpah and Ruth to have been full sisters, that's what the Midrash does, and assumes they are sisters. Then Orpah is said to have made a pretense of accompanying Ruth, but after 40 paces left her, which is interesting. And thereafter she led a dissolute life. According to the Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, not the Babylonian one, Goliath was born by polyspermy and had about 100 fathers. Now this is where the rubbers meet in the road now, because if you remember that derivation of Orpah's name, Harapha, they called her Harapha, which again is a reference to threshing of wheat or the bruising of corn. And now that we're talking about Orpah being multiply inseminated by 100 fathers, it starts to come together like a puzzle, doesn't it? The text has Ma'aroth 14, but we read the word as Ma'arkoth, excuse me, because all had intercourse or he'eru with his mother, Orpah. The text has Harapha and also Orpah. Rob and Samuel differ in their interpretation. That's two different rabbis. One said that her name was Harapha, and why was she called Orpah? Because she had intercourse with all from the rear orifice, which is terrible. I'm sorry. You guys asked, like you asked Northbound. The other said her name was Orpah, and she was called Harapha because all of the men ground her like bruised corn. Harapha. Okay. Haraphoth, as it says here. Thus it states, the woman took and spread the covering over the well's mouth and strewed Haraphoth, bruised corn thereon. That's another reference to different scripture, etc. So like you would bruise corn with a mortar and pestle, they used that word Harapha as a reference to Orpah because she was known to have slept with so many men who bruised her like corn, essentially. So there's the brass tacks that you asked for, Northbound. Yeah, you're welcome. What can I say? Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else, but just know that the way that the rabbis all talked about Orpah was that, yes, that she bore Goliath, and that the reason he was a giant was because of this polyspermy, because she had intercourse with so many men, and it was apparently well known that she was a lascivious woman. So anyway, yeah, we probably need to leave that one alone now. But that's what I found. It's so Northbound, to your comment, it's all over the Talmud and the Midrash. So yeah, that's apparently what the rabbis all thought about Orpah. So yeah, that she was the father or the mother of the 4 brothers. Goliath had brothers, right? She was the mother of all of them, according to what I read. And so let's see. Goliath, had 3 brothers, supposedly born in Orpah. He was, as I consider him, a Nephilim giant, but as you know, it's interesting, like whether we should call the Nephilim, the giants before the flood Nephilim and the giants after the flood Nephilim, or if it should be split and they should not be called Nephilim after the flood. I don't know, actually. I question that sometimes as I think through these things. But anyway, Sota 42b is the section of the Talmud where you can read all about Orpah, and says that Goliath's mother was trampled or oppressed by many men, etc. And all this other stuff. I think that's about it. So I think that's it. Yeah. I think it's highly likely that these accounts are somewhat true about Orpah and Goliath and the relationship. I don't know why that would be made up, right? When I see stuff like that in multiple locations, even in like Jewish ancient writings like Talmud, Mishnah, and their traditions, unless it was related to the Messiah, their traditions generally stay the same, even now. So they you have to give them credit for keeping their understanding of the scriptures. There's unless it's something that, again, like I said, is related to Messiah, they generally have kept things pretty stable over time, right? And so I just feel like that's probably a good assessment that Orpah is probably, the mother of Goliath. So I hope that helps. I hope that's pretty fun to hear. Northbound. Yeah, you touched on something that I think is pretty cool. And if Northbound, you have a extra source for that, I would be interested to at least catalog that source with my other information that I found. You mentioned the Book of Orpah, so if there's another place where you found something else I couldn't find, then I would love to see that. But all right, cool. All right, let's see what we've got next on the docket. C. Jones, you asked, what is the meaning of Matthew 5:18? So let's do that one. Matthew 5:18. Let's go ahead and pull that up. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Matthew 5. Right. Part of the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount. Let's see. 5:18. Verily I say to you, till heaven and earth pass, or one jot or tittle shall no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Right. You ask, what does the all in the all being fulfilled really mean? Okay. Yeah. That's right. So I can assume the direction that you're coming at this from, C. Jones. I don't, want to make too many assumptions, but I think because I know some things about you and things you've said in the past, like I think I know where you're coming from. I think you feel like that. I think that your perspective, if I'm not mistaken, don't let me put words in your mouth, but it may be that that all of the prophecy in the Bible was fulfilled by 70 AD and in 70 AD. Am I correct there? You can put a comment, yes or no, but I know a lot of people, by the way, have that view. And they look at this verse and they say, look, until everything's fulfilled, or everything will be fulfilled by the time the law is done, right? If the law is done, that means everything's fulfilled, right? And that's a view a lot of people share. So I think that's, yeah, you're saying kind of like that's where you're coming from, at least to explain this out, right? Now, in the context here is very short, but, this is a sermon Jesus is teaching, one of his first, and he says a bunch of things about what he expects out of the people of Israel. He is probably teaching to mostly Jews here. So he's teaching about being the salt of the earth, being the light of the world. Neither do man light a candle and put it under a bushel. Let your light shine before men. So he's doing all that. Then he says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. Oh, this is a little small for y'all. Let me get that bigger. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say to you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So what he says is, and we just got to be clear about what he says in verse 17. He's talking about the law, and he says, and he's talking about the prophets too there. He says the law and the prophets, I've come not to destroy, but to fulfill them. So when Jesus talks about the prophets right there, who does he include? He's including all the Old Testament prophets. He's talking about Daniel. He's talking about a few of these different things, okay? And he did not come to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say to you, till heaven and earth pass, which I truly believe is a reference to the end of the world, in what we would call the end of the world, that one jot and one tittle shall in no wise pass from what? Does he say the prophets? Nope. He says from the law, that no piece of the law would pass unless all was fulfilled. And so what I would take away from this is that literally he's saying the law will be fulfilled, and it will happen before the earth will pass. And that this doesn't mean, he's not saying, by the way, the book of John and the book of Revelation had not been written at this time when he said this, right? John had not written anything at this time. The book of Revelation did not exist. And that vision, by the way, hadn't been given by God. So Revelation was unknown, especially Revelation 20 and 21, right? However, there's some references to, I think, some of the same things in some of the Old Testament prophets. Okay. But literally what I think this is in verse 18 is Jesus saying that the law will not break apart until it's fulfilled. The law will not pass. It will not go away. It's going to be fulfilled. He said in the verse prior, I've come to be doing some fulfilling. I'm here to fulfill things, right? And so, whereas I think people kind of turn the verse around and they bring something into it saying, oh, he's saying that, every prophecy is going to be fulfilled by the time the law passes away. And I don't think that that's what he's really saying here. He's saying that the law is good and it's fine until it's going to be fulfilled. And guess who fulfilled it? Jesus Christ himself, the one speaking, fulfilled it. And I believe that he fulfilled it. He fulfilled the law, the Mosaic law, by just coming, for one. And then number two, by his death and resurrection. And so I just feel like that this is him saying, I'm taking care of the law and it's going to be finished. And I just don't think that this has anything to do with some qualifying factor for, if all the prophecy hasn't been fulfilled, then the law can't be done away with. And if the law is done away with, then all prophecy is fulfilled. Do you see how you're making a hermeneutic interpretation rule out of something that was not meant to be that? And people do that with people do the same kind of thing with the 1,000 years is as a day into the Lord verse in, is it 1 Peter? Instead of taking that verse as what it is, which is a verse that's stating and affirming that God is patient and will always do what he says he will do, that's what the intent of that verse is. And then making it a hermeneutic rule that then drives all of your interpretation, that's wrong. That's not what is meant to happen there when the writer writes something like that. And in this case, when Jesus said this, I think he was saying, I'm going to fulfill the law. That's really all it is. It's very simple. And he did fulfill the law. And so, Pittsburgh Joe, it's good to have you this morning. I'm glad you joined up. Tomcat, I'm glad you joined up too. Tomcat, you say the law still exists. We know we're sinners who need salvation by Jesus. Well, I mean, The law exists in the sense that we know what it was, but it is fulfilled already. So all the Mosaic practices, all the ritual, all the sacrifice, that is fulfilled, never needs to happen again. Never needs to happen. So in that sense, like the law exists, but we don't follow the law. And anyone that says they follow the law is lying to themselves, because the temple doesn't exist, and it was the cornerstone of about half of the law. So anyone that says today they're following the Mosaic law is kind of deluded. And I don't mean that in a negative. I don't mean to be mean to anyone on the call. You know, if you really treasure the Mosaic law. Now, it did point to sin, like you said, Tomcat. You say by the law we know we're sinners. Well, that's the purpose of the law. That's the original purpose, right? Hebrews talks all about that. It was to show Israel their sin so that they could then be an example to the nations of how to relate to God. You know, that was part of being the chosen nation. God chose them to make them an example, and he gave them the law to help them do it, right? Like, do these things. Number one, it points out sin. Number two, it points out the Messiah who's coming, and then Jesus comes and he fulfills it. Do you see how that's so beautiful, how it all fits together when you understand the law for what it is? The law does not end at the last judgment, Tomcat. The books he opens are in heaven. Those are not the Mosaic law. Those are the books in heaven that he opens at the last judgment. Yeah, the books of, like, the book of life and the books of the deeds of men. These are talked about in other writings. It's not the same as the Mosaic law. Yeah. And I can see that my voice is very detached from my video. So again, I apologize. I'm going to do something this week to see if I can get that figured out better. I don't know why it's so off. It's so off. So yeah, I think that as far as I can do, that's my explanation of this verse for UC Jones. Yeah, you say, C. Jones, you mentioned Acts where multiple elders and other believers were still following the law. Right, well, I guess I should say that I think the real end of the law had to be in 70 when God destroyed the temple, right? I mean, I guess I probably misspoke earlier, but if the temple's gone, like, it's gone. There's no law anymore. There's no Mosaic law. You can't have it without the temple. The Jews know this today. That's why they want to build the temple, right? They made all sorts of verbal concessions for themselves to try to explain why they can still be good Jews and not have the temple. They do that all the time. They try to justify it too. But it's not, they're not following the Mosaic law if there's no temple. It's just not happening. And Northbound, I like what you said. When Jesus said it is finished, he was the ultimate sacrifice. When he said that, he was dying on the cross as the sacrifice to end all sacrifices. So yeah. Yeah. C. Jones, you tend to agree that the all being fulfilled was the temple being destroyed. Yeah, I think that's a hard stop on everything. It's a hard stop when the priesthood is slaughtered inside the temple and burned half alive or half dead or whatever, and the temple is burned to the ground. I mean, you don't get much more. There's not much beyond that. I don't know what to say. He even says in most of the prophecies, like, he threw the wicked Jews into hell. They went straight down to the lake of fire, and their smoke burned up towards the heavens forever. You don't get around that, do you? Can you get around that? I don't know. People work at it really hard too. Yeah. All right, checking in the comments there, but I think we are probably about done with that one. I mean, that's how I feel about it. You know, I could. That's that gives you my answer. So. All right, so let's check in then on our topics. Let's see what we've got next. These are good because we're going a little quick, and we may get to a bunch of these today. I want to get to Katie's too. Let's see. Yeah, I want to at least get to Yosippon. That one's pretty interesting to me too. Okay, Laura, we're going to do yours about the iron and clay from Daniel. What is the iron and the clay mixed from Daniel? Now, yeah, this will be interesting. This will be good. So, I believe that's all in Daniel 6. Is that right? It might be 4. Yeah, it's not 6. Let's see. Why can't I find it? Well, there it is. It's Daniel 2. Oh, okay. Well, my bad. It's going too far. I'd forgotten this was so early. So early in Daniel. All right. Yes. So this is Daniel interpreting the dream that the king had, right? The vision. And in verse 31 of chapter 2, we have, "Thou, O king, sawest and beheld a great image. The great image whose brightness was excellent stood before you. It was a terrible form. The image's head was of fine gold, his breasts of arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part iron and part clay. Thou sawest still a stone that was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron and the clay, the brass, silver, the gold broken to pieces together. They came off like chaff in the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became the great mountain and filled the whole earth." All right. And that's the dream and the interpretation thereof. Thank you, Daniel. So, yeah, when I studied this initially, and you know, it was probably a few years ago when I did this. So we knew, and we found that almost every scholar agrees, even non-preteristic scholars, you know, Protestant, futuristic scholars, premillennial, dispensational, they mostly agree that, you know, the head of fine gold was Nebuchadnezzar's own kingdom. It was Babylon, right? And his breasts and arms of silver being Medo-Persia, the next kingdom that came just a hundred years later, whatever it was. It was a very short time period that's being talked about here. The belly and thighs of brass. Again, that was Greece. And this is almost every scholar. They all understand this and say this. They'll just say, like, futuristic scholars will say, well, the legs of iron is Rome, and Rome extends for 2,000 years into our current modern time, whereas those other kingdoms were short. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. Common sense would tell you, no, these are all short-lived kingdoms, 100 years here, 100 years there. So we got Babylon, Medo-Persia as the silver, Greece as the brass, and then the legs of iron assumed to be Rome, and the feet being part iron and part clay. Now, I've done a good bit of research on this, and I guess the conclusion I came to on the iron and clay mixed was that when Rome's kingdom started, it started really strong, like iron, like really strong. As the Claudian Caesars, the original Caesars, starting in 50 BC or something like that is about when the first emperor, began for Rome. And it was just a super strong kingdom. They were conquering, right? They were conquering everywhere. They're taking over everything. They took over the Greek lands. They took over the Medo-Persian lands. They had armies in different countries, and they were going through kicking everybody's butt, right? And then as it got further in time, especially as Nero, that time frame when Nero's in power, and the empire kind of fragments a little. It gets a little scary in there. Like there's mixing in with, there's lots of different little groups and factions, and I always felt like that this iron becoming, the iron legs then becoming iron and clay feet. I always felt like it was the fragmented nature of the empire, the Roman Empire at the time of Christ and up until the time of 70 AD. Because it was quite, there was civil wars, different things going on all over at that time. It was a very tumultuous and chaotic time. So I just feel like that was how I came down on my interpretation of the iron and clay. Because what happens to the iron and clay, this is what a lot of people ignore in verse 34. They'll sometimes make a certain interpretation of the iron and clay mixing, and then they do it in a way that excludes verse 34, which says that the stone that's cut without hands, which is Christ, obviously, smote the image and destroys the iron and clay and everything else and breaks them to pieces. In fact, it hits at the iron and clay. So because this statue is a depiction of the next few centuries of history in regards to the people in power, the ruling powers, that it makes sense to me that the iron and clay is simply the descriptive of the Roman kingdom at the time, because it was chaotic. It was in chaos. And it was not so steadfast as just iron and controlling. It was starting to fragment. And then Christ hits. He's the stone without hands, and it crushes the whole statue, right? Everything falls apart. And we know, of course, Rome continued on after that time, but in the sense of the vision, it gives a perfect picture of what's coming right up until the time of Christ. And then it really doesn't have a picture after that. It doesn't give a picture after that. So whether the Roman kingdom morphed and continued or however that worked, it's really irrelevant to this vision and the symbolism, metaphor, if you will, of the statue. Okay. So that was my thoughts. Like, some people might say, of course, futurists will say the iron and the clay is still in our future, and it's when the, quote, Roman kingdom, which they consider as anybody bad nowadays, like, to them, Rome represents every bad kingdom from the time of Christ until now. And they're like, no, it's still in power. It's the same one. It's Rome. They're still in power. And they'll say, that the iron and clay is when those bad people that are ruling the world try to force everyone into transhumanism, and they start mixing humans with technology. And then there's others that'll say, no, it's when the aliens come back and the angels, well, they're, aliens are angels, which I agree with that, but they'll say it's when the aliens come back and they're really angels and they're going to start again mixing with humans and create more giants. That's what some people say. The futurist interpretation takes that as some kind of genetic mixing. And then, there's even some historical interpretations that see the iron and clay as, instead of ruling nations, they see it as genetics, and they say something about like Israel mixing with the other nations at the time or something like that. I just don't get behind that interpretation at all. I think that this is more about rulership and leaders and these, ruling nations. And so at this time, the fragmentation of the Roman Empire seems to lay squarely on this, metaphorical symbol of the statue and make 100% sense to me. Maybe to you it makes some other sense, but yeah, Tomcat, like you're saying, that's a possibility. The Rome is iron and the clay is Israel, and so they were mixing all up. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Northbound, you say some people say that Rome endured a few hundred years more until Jesus ushered in the millennial kingdom around 500 AD, which coincides with the mainstream timeline of the Dark Ages. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really agree with that. Millennial kingdom, physically on Earth stuff. I don't believe in that. I mean, and I can't say, why would someone say that the millennial kingdom waited 500 years to start after Jesus said it's starting, the kingdom is near? And he said it like 100 times. The kingdom is on top of you. It's near. It's among us. It's now. Wait 500 years. Wait a sec. I was wrong. I don't think Jesus would do that. All the prophecy and revelation about what happened at 70 AD, and then the fact that Satan was bound and the saints went to heaven, that's all right there. It's not like he told us there was 1,000 years of that. Why didn't he tell us about the 500 before? So to me, it goes against so many things in Scripture. I can't take those positions, right? I can't. Northbound, you asked if I had said this before, but do I think Rome was destroyed in a day when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, or do you think it fractured after that and crumbled over a period of time? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's something I think I'd like to study more. I kind of would. To understand Rome better, I just really haven't done a deep study of Rome after the time of Christ. I really haven't. But, all the power of Rome, to me, seems to have been a little bit diminished after all this, right? Like, from the 1st century onward, it was almost like they were trying to catch back up to where they were. And maybe the power that they had wasn't there. The iron-fisted rule over all these areas. I don't know. I do need to study it more. Yeah, you say you haven't dived in too deep on it either. Yeah, dived it. Yeah, me neither. Katie, you said the Dark Ages could still have been a cover-up for the Millennial Kingdom, whether or not it was an earthly reign. I don't believe it was on Earth, but that could still make sense. Well, it could, but I guess I don't then agree with the timeline. Like, I still don't feel like the timeline is correct. And if the 1,000 years occurred during the Dark Ages, that would mean our timeline now is correct, and meaning we are at the year 2023 or so, which I don't believe that's really true. I think it's more likely that some of the Dark Ages weren't really real. And so our timeline is skewed, and we're really not at 2,000 years since Christ. We're at more like 1,500. So, yeah, anyway. And Northbound, you're on your phone. Good for you. I'm terrible at typing on my phone. Anyway. Oh, well. All right. Now I think we're good on that one then. I think we are. So let's do our next topic, which is Katie's. Katie's found this account of Yosippon, which I'm going to look up live. I don't know anything about this, by the way. So Katie, I want to look this up. If you have anything you want to send to help me get there, you can. But I'm going to look this guy up. and we'll see what we see. Yosippon. Sounds Asian. Yosippon is a chronicle of Jewish history from Adam to the age of Titus. Titus. Oh. And is named after supposed author Josephus Flavius, though it was actually composed in the 10th century in southern Italy, according to Wikipedia. Wikipedia. 10th century southern Italy. The Ethiopic version of Yosippon is recognized as canonical by the Ethiopian Tawedo Church, and etc. Interesting. I love it. So I want to see if I can find that writing and see it. That's not going to be it. PDF, maybe that's it. Doggone it. Companion to Josephus. Sometimes when you try things live, they don't go 100% right. I'm going to try Old Faithful archive.org and search for it. Okay, here we go. Here's one. Looks like it's in it's in German. Great. It's in German. How do I get to that? That's frustrating. This might be a hard one for me to find, Katie Turner. Yeah, ooh, this is a beautiful book. Look at this thing. I wish I could read German. I would learn so much. I'm just saying. Okay. Here's some information on Yosippon. Yeah, Laura, you're right. It does apparently mean Josephus. Sefer Yosippon. Maybe that's how I need to search for this thing. Sefer Yosippon. I'm gonna find it. Doggone it. Author, what? Joseph Ben Gurion. Don't know, guys. I'm getting confused. Author of Sefer Yosippon, History of the Jews from the time of the destruction of Babylon to the downfall of the Jewish state in 70 AD. Oh, if I could just find it. Well, I do think, by the way, Katie, if this does have an account of the armies seen in heaven, then I would see that as a valid account, at least. And I haven't seen the writing yet, but I'll tell you something. The Ethiopic church having this as part of their canon, to me, lends it a lot of credence. I do. That gives it a lot more credence and kind of casts doubt on what I just read in Wikipedia that said it was a 10th century writing. I'm not sure I believe that. Okay, when Wikipedia just throws out oh, that writing was actually a forgery or a 10th century, I don't always believe it from Wikipedia, as you can imagine. So I'm interested, because this to me sounds like it could be something. I don't know. And if it at least it proves or seems to be ancient, seems to be old, and is another account of that event in 70 AD, I would say it adds to the body of evidence of what happened in 70 AD in some small way, even though it's harder to verify. It's all these things. We have a bunch of other writings that are more reliable, right, than this, that talk about the same thing. So this is just another confirmation, really, of what we're talking about here. Yeah, Katie Turner. Yeah, I see what you got there, what you put there. You say a horseman in great flying force across the sky, near to the ground, coming against Jerusalem and all the land of Judah, all of them horses of fire and riders of fire. Wow, that's quite an amazing statement. Oh my goodness. I've got to find this thing. Katie, you're always throwing hand grenades into the meeting. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I love it. Now I have something to do this coming week, you know. C. Jones, you feel like Josephus seems to be the source of the info from this person that wrote this and makes sense why the accounts are similar. Yeah, that may be true, but it looks like you're reading Wikipedia, and so I always take Wikipedia with a grain of salt, and then I go look at other stuff after. Yeah, no problem, C. Jones, not at all. I just am, yeah. Yeah, so I think, Rick Bowser, you mentioned my sync, and I think what's going on is I mentioned I have a new computer, and I think what is wrong is, thank you, Northbound, it's good to see you. I think what's wrong with my sync is that my camera is going through USB, and for some reason the USB port is not fast enough to keep up. And it's really distressing because it's supposed to be a high-speed port. So I think what's happened is it's streaming as fast as it can, and I can even see on my screen sometimes, I can see the video out of sync with the audio. Like, it's really frustrating. So at the beginning of the stream, I saw it. So maybe that's it. If I can figure that out this week and get it on a better port, or I actually have a card I can put in the computer that is just all USB ports, USB 3. Maybe that'll help. I'll see this week. Maybe I can get this straightened out. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, though. So at least I know. Knowing's half the battle, right? All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty amazing there, Katie. And so I will try to find more on this, but right now I don't have any more, and I don't want to spend a ton of time trying to find a translation of this this writing. You know, it's amazing to me, by the way, how hard it is to find some of these writings online. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? And I mean, there's a lot of reasons that it can be hard to find some of these writings, but just in general, it's funny to me that some writings are easy to find and others are really hard. So yeah, interesting. Well, I think we're gonna finish that topic now. So based on the time, I'm willing to do another topic if y'all guys want to. If you guys want to. I think, Katie, though, I'm going to leave the Moses covering his face till next time so I can study a little on that, see if I can figure out some reference for this. And then I'll do that next week, Moses keeping his face covered. Because there's, we can do the fragment of Noah out of the Dead Sea Scrolls too, and talk about Moses' countenance and how it was and all this stuff. So yeah. Squiffy Bear, you ask me about cryptids? What do I think of cryptids? Man, what about cryptids? Bigfoot, Dogman, etc. Bigfoot, Dogman, Mothman, Skinwalker, all that, right? Oh, not the Sinwalker. What's wrong with me? Skinwalker. Well, I think a lot of things about them. I think about them a lot, and I think a lot of things about them. So I'll just say this, like cryptozoology. I have a big fat list of them: the Beast of Bray Road, Bigfoot, the Chupacabra, the coelacanth, which is a real. The coelacanth is real. That's a real fish. Corfu monster, the dire wolf, the Dover demon, dragons. Obviously, dragons are real. Infield horror, the Flatwoods monster. All these, like, there's a lot. The Kraken, Lizard Man, the Loveland Frogman, the Michigan Dogman. There you go. There's Dogman. There he is. Momo, the Missouri monster, monster of Monterey. That's a fish, man. That's just a fish, yo. The Ninjin. Have you seen the Ninjin in Antarctica and Asia? Oh my goodness. The Ninjin are weird. You seen this stuff? These things are weird. Have you seen that? I don't know what to think about that. I haven't seen one. Looks like I have a video of one. Let's see. This is supposedly a video of a Ninjin. And that, of course, is... I think I'm saying it wrong. That's a Chinese word. So this is a really bad quality video if that's a Ninjin. But there it is. I don't know. Oh, it has another clip. What is this? Oh yeah, here's a good one. What is that thing? Is that a Ninjin? Very interesting. Anyway. I got lots of this stuff, you know. I don't... The Skinwalker, by the way, Skinwalker, if you're interested in cryptozoology, the book, and I don't trust George Knapp anymore, but a long time ago he wrote a book called Hunt for the Skinwalker, and that book is pretty impressive. Like this book, Hunt for the Skinwalker by George Knapp. That book is eye-opening to say the least. It feels like there's demonic activity going on there. And there's a new show out now called Skinwalker Ranch or something stupid. That is the stupidest show ever. It's so fake and stupid. So don't go watch that show. But if you're interested in this, I would say the Skinwalker Ranch and the interesting things that happen there, look for this book. Okay. I have done a lot of research on this stuff, actually. Skunk apes, thunderbirds. Look at the thunderbird, man. That's a big bird. Thunderbirds, actually, I think that's real. Unicorns, we've talked about that. They're real. Just not flying ones. Anyway, there's a lot of this stuff, and I don't know, guys. I just... I think the world, especially the ancient world, was so much more interesting and amazing than we give it credit for. We think that the way that things are now is the way they always have been. And the way that science portrays itself and the way that the scientists treat us is like, you're stupid for thinking any of that stuff exists, right? Or anything has ever been different than it is now. Except if unless you got to believe our evolution propaganda. You got to believe that there used to be half frog, half fish out there, and there used to be I don't know, half lizard, half birds out there, and there used to be some critter that was just a slug in a pool of stew, and that because unguided, undesigned evolution can somehow by mutation produce half of an eyeball that doesn't work, and then some genetic knowledge built in saying, oh, half an eyeball is someday going to be a full eyeball, and so I will continue to direct my evolution towards the full eyeball even though it's taking millions of years to do it, which is patent nonsense. Science destroys our ability sometimes, and when we trust it, it destroys our ability to study these things. And the reality is that people do see things that are weird, and they're real. And maybe they're not exactly what people think they are, but there's something. I do feel like that the Bigfoot, whatever that is, whatever you want to call it, the idea, the concept of a Bigfoot, I think is legitimate. I don't know exactly what the Bigfoot is, and I don't know if all of the sightings have been, obviously they're not all legitimate, but I think there's something out there. You know, some of those legends actually came from northern China, where they saw these kind of standing up creatures that were white. They were like all white. I can't remember the name they used for those creatures, but that plays into the whole Bigfoot narrative. Like, what is that? You know, obviously there's something. It's not just like, a monk one day decided to make up a story about this creature in the northern Siberian mountains. And that story, although false, was just propagated through thousands of years of history. That doesn't make any sense. Right, Stacia? Maybe it's the Yeti. That's right. The one from China. So to me, these stories have credence, but I don't know how to, you can't, they're so unprovable. And just think of it. Let's imagine for a second. Let's say you were hiking through the woods and you saw a critter on two legs, looked almost like a man size or bigger, walking off in the distance between trees or something. Would you have the forethought to have your phone ready at the go? And, you got some video of it. But the reality is that's what people have done. And when you happen upon that situation, the event is half finished before you start recording. And it's usually so far away you can't get a good shot. I mean, that's the nature of what would happen in reality. So it doesn't surprise me that we don't have good shots of a creature that apparently is, it's like if I tried to go into the forest and just randomly happen upon a deer and take some video of it. You usually don't have that happen even with deer. People don't sneak up on deer because deer are sensitive. They live in the forest. They have sharp hearing. So as soon as you snap a twig half a mile away, they're at attention. They know what's going on. So you're not going to sneak up on a deer even and then record it in the wild. Now, unless it's just random, like, so anyway, I mean, it's just, the nature of finding critters that are good at hiding. Maybe these are all the critters that are just good at hiding and we've just never been able to find them really good in a way that we can record them, right? Of all the critters in the world, of all of them, there's got to be a select few that are really good at hiding, right? Maybe this is the list. I don't know. But some of these are just animals that are, essentially extinct, right? Like the coelacanth. This critter is amazing. It's a bony fish. They still occasionally catch these, but the scientists are like, that fish is supposed to be extinct a bajillion years ago. How come you keep finding those things? Well, it's because evolution is a farce. And, it's just because some creatures didn't survive into the current age doesn't mean that the earth is a bajillion years old. In fact, critters like this probably just got good at hiding because I don't know that this fish is very fast, probably slow moving. And so it may have just started, hiding. I don't know what to say about that, but I tend to be like, these things are probably true in some sense, but it's hard to verify. If someone had a legitimate photo of a chupacabra, how would you know it? Right? Chupacabra is a name given by somebody to something they saw and didn't get any evidence of. And so they told a story, the story got passed down, and now someone got a picture of this thing and said, hey, this is the chupacabra. right? I don't know if that's a chupacabra or that looks like a giant rat dog. I don't know. Is that a chupacabra? I don't know. It's an ugly dog is what it is. Corfu monster. I don't even remember what this is. I don't know if that's real or what that is. Who knows? But anyway, I guess I'll leave off that topic for now then. It's a great topic. It's a great topic, Stacia. I just, to dive in deep on that, that's more like, hey, let's pick one of these, quote, legends and drive into a conclusion on doing some heavy research and really figuring it out. If there was one, Stacia, if there was one of these cryptids that you would want me, for instance, to do a ton of research on and try to figure out the best information I could find, what would it be? What would it be? C. Jones, I like your comment about the Indonesian tsunami and all the creatures that washed ashore. I'm going to do some looking into that for sure. Yeah, that's cool. In fact, anyone on the chat's welcome to tell me, like, if there was one cryptid you were interested in, what would it be? Which is the most interesting one of all of them? I mean, I'm curious too, right? I just, I've seen a lot of those things and I just haven't gone deep dive into many of them. I did for a while collect some of the most popular Bigfoot sightings that I could find to try to just evaluate them. They're tough to evaluate because they're not good quality video. But Squiffy Bear, you say they appear to be metaphysical. That's one concept that is interesting. For instance, the Skinwalker. If you read about, for one, if you know the legend of the Skinwalker being from the Indians that lived out west, you know that they saw that as a metaphysical creature. They saw it as a dimensional being that could go in and out of the spirit world, right? And then change shape. And so that's a very interesting concept. But the reality is, if you read that book I talked about, The Hunt for the Skinwalker by George Knapp, then you're going to read a story of, related by real people that seem to be describing a dimensional being. Because it comes in, it goes out, it vanishes, it does things, changes shape. Seems to, at least. Earth to Cindy, you say that the Sasquatch is very popular in the PNW. That's good. There's a vote for Sasquatch on the table, people. There's a vote for Sasquatch. You know that well, Squiffy? Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Stacia, you say, after understanding what the fallen angels did in Genesis, I don't discredit any of the odd creatures at this point. Yeah, I don't discredit them. I think especially in the past, there were a lot of creatures that just aren't around anymore. But that's one thing I don't do, is discredit someone else saying they said something or saying they saw something, right? Because if I came out saying that I had seen something, I would assume that I would be honest about it, right? And I would not want someone to tell me I was a lunatic for saying it. So I don't think it's right when other people come out and say they saw something, for people to go around saying they're lunatic and they didn't see what they said they saw. Of course they saw something. Unless they're just patent liars. Of course they saw something. So I try to give the benefit of the doubt to people who see things like that and claim that they saw something, right? And I just, leave it where it is. If I'm like, well, that seems, spurious, right? It doesn't seem like either your video doesn't really seem like it's showing much of anything or what, I just leave that alone. If I don't feel like it's valuable, I leave it alone. But I don't talk people down for trying to say they saw something, because heaven's sakes, I've seen some things in my life that I probably can't explain very well. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah, you're right, Rick. It is out of sync again. That's frustrating, man. You know, ever since computers went to USB, they just assumed USB was like perfect for everything, and they started getting rid of all the other ports on the computers. And you used to have some really high-speed ports on the computers. For a while there was FireWire, and then, you know, I don't know. It just is weird to me, like some of the decisions that have been made by the computer industry probably not the best. Pittsburgh Joe, I see your question. Do Jews reject Jesus because they think that the anointed one should be a Mosaic high priest instead of Melchizedek high priest? That's a good comment. Good question. I can't speak for Jews, but I mean, I copied down your question because I kind of want to think about that more. I think that's interesting. It might be. Katie Turner, you say your dad saw a UFO. He saw an unidentified flying object, right? So, yeah, I believe that's 100% valid. I don't know what to say. I saw a video yesterday of some kid in some third world country pointing up at the sky, and it looked like in the clouds there was a really strange formation that looked like a circle and an X in the middle. I don't think it was actually that, but it looked like that, kind of the way that the clouds formed. It was very odd. Very odd. Did not look, and I have a background, by the way. I know a lot about doing computer graphics and effects work, and this did not look like something that you could fake. This looked very real. Very real. Terry Barnes, Project Bluebeam, yeah. Government project to be able to project holograms into the sky, and they've actually tested it multiple times throughout history to trick populations into believing certain things or seeing certain things. Yeah. So... Well, Squiffy, did you get video of the UFO? Because we just don't believe you if you don't have video. Come on, show us. Where's the video? Just kidding. I was being a jerk. See, that's how it is. It's like we all have things we've seen that we want to explain, and then you sound silly when you say it, or that people think you're silly but the reality is, this is the reality. Everyone's seen things that are weird like that. Everyone. So the sheer fact that we denigrate anyone for saying they saw something is just funny. It's just silly. Like, why do we do that? We've all seen weird things. Stacia, are they censoring you? Let me take a look. I'm mad. Stacia, type it all together without spaces. Maybe they won't censor it. It's so weird. Oh. Yeah, well, we're winding down here. A white solid circular ball. Interesting. I don't know why this... I don't know why the chat is so touchy, guys. I don't know why. I don't know why. Laura, you say you saw, when you were young, you saw a star that was the size of the sun or moon, and you told yourself it was the morning star. If you look at the weapon called Morning Star, that's what I saw. Oh my gosh. That's pretty cool, Laura. See, this is the thing, guys. This is what I'm just like blown away by. Do you realize this is part of what this is part of what they don't want is for us to talk about these kinds of things. So Hey, you guys, so tell me this. If I did some more weekday night live streams where we could just talk about anything we want, would we be interested in doing one on this very topic and just talking, using it as a chance to talk? Because I think that would be cool. I think that would be really cool. This is what happens when we all talk together about things. We start learning. Yeah, we got a few of you. You're in. You're like, yes, let's do it. Okay. I think we should do that. I think we should do that. I'd be happy to do that. So maybe look for it this week. I might think about what day would be best, and I'll probably set up a live stream one evening this week. Trying to think, are you guys mostly West Coast or East? Because timing is always an issue. I don't like to start anything before 7 p.m. West Coast, because if it's earlier, then people on the West Coast have trouble. But that would make it 10 p.m. Did I say 7 p.m.? Yeah, 10 p.m. East Coast. Whew. Yeah, I don't know, man. Might have to start it at 6 p.m. West Coast, 9 p.m. East Coast. That might be the best. Then maybe, if you have to drop at the beginning or end, miss the beginning or end, we can still have some time with everybody. Whew. I'll be up late that night. That's okay. Who needs sleep when you can do stuff like this? Right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay, well, just look for that on the channel then, guys. I'll make sure that the channel knows, like, I put the thing on the channel within the next day or two here so that it's there and you can see it. And then maybe I'll send out a notification if you guys are on my kind of email list. I'll try to do that too. All right, guys. This has been fun this morning. We went through a bunch, and I just appreciate you all joining. Call the group the Sleepwalkers. That has a whole nother meaning to me now, Katie Turner, that you know about, the Sleepwalkers. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining this morning. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate the topics. I always enjoy it. I just hope that you guys get as much out of it as I do. I do my best, and I just thank God for each of you. God bless you this week. Have a good one, and take care of yourselves.